Hey, y'all. Welcome to your show.
Don't be a victim.
I'm Lee Turner Jr. of Tango Firearms Training.
And I think and believe I'm Buddy Myers of Tall Gun still.
As of today,
Wait a minute, let me check. Yeah, that's who's staring back at me out of the mirror. It's still
yeah.
me, folks. I'm really happy to report that.
We wanted to announce this month, this has been our 1 year anniversary of Don't Be a Victim that we've been doing for the podcast.
So where are you taking me for my anniversary, Lee?
Unless you can meet me in the middle.
Okay, I am Topeka, Kansas. I'll see you there in 9.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Topeka. But there ain't nothing there. I've been through there quite a few times.
You
don't care to go
the
again.
Right parts of Topeka. We're going to go downtown. Down
Yeah,
by
I have
Burlington Northern Santa Fe's headquarters. Or not headquarters, but their dispatch center. I'll show you a good time.
Just going through, especially coming from Colorado to Alabama, and there's a couple states that I don't care to go through again, and Kansas is one of them. Oklahoma, I like Oklahoma as long as you stay off the toll roads, because it only costs you about $105 to get through that state.
You haven't traveled enough to the Northeast yet, buddy. You go to the Northeast, it costs you $100 across the street up there in tolls. And don't disparage Kansas. Kansas ain't bad. You go drive through Nebraska. Now there's a state now you don't want to travel across too much.
True that. There ain't much there.
No, there's a few corn stalks. There's some really flat ground, and oh yeah, did I tell you there's some really flat ground? And that's about it.
That's about it. But we wanted to throw out a very heavy thank you to everyone who's hung with us through the podcast shows and listened and still continue to listen, and hope you understand why we created this show. And we're just trying to help you all out there with everything that we've been trying to teach you, from handguns, ammunition, to everything revolves around don't be a victim. Everything in the shooting world, you can be a victim of buying the wrong ammo. So that's what I think we're going to talk about today is some calibers and ammunition.
Yeah, and in reflecting back on that year, Lee and I started this out on a really, actually, I have to let me correct that. Lee started this out on a really small radio station here in Colorado, and then I joined him after he'd been doing it for a while, and we've had some really good times, both with the radio, but then moving to podcasts made more sense. But, as Lee said, we covered a lot of subjects of it, but one of the ones that I thought was really most telling is the one about the folds of the flag and the honor to the military that Lee did when I wasn't with him. And if you get the chance to go back through our podcast at DBAVictim.podbean.com or, scroll back, you find that one. That one was stellar, one of the most moving ones that, in my opinion, we've ever done, and that was all because of Lee.
Well, when I asked Buddy to join this show with me, I wanted to do it for a reason, to train people. And Buddy's been my chief instructor since day one, and I couldn't think of a better man to help me get out there with his knowledge that he can bring to you all. If you're in Colorado and you're looking for somebody to instruct under, follow under, this is the man to go to. And that's why I wanted to hang at his side and want him to be a part of this show to bring what he has to all these years of knowledge that he has. And you're shorting yourself if you don't pay attention to whenever you're sitting in his classroom. You really are. Because I know he's brought me to this point where I'm at today.
Yeah, I'm very humbled by those words, Lee, and thank you so very much. But now,
that's the truth.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I know we have a very, good relationship. Not only do we have a working relationship, we have a friend relationship, and in this little span of a few years of us working here, boy, I tell you what, both work-wise and personally, we've been through a hell of a lot,
Yeah, we have.
So stuff that you normally don't go through with people of maybe 10 or 15 years, of knowing them, but, it's been compressed pretty quick, and there is about a 6-week period of time that affected you more than me that I would say I would change.
Yeah.
This is called COVID. That
put me on the flat of my back.
Well, this is very true. And otherwise I wouldn't change any of it. Not a single doggone thing. Well,
No, sir.
we've been pontificating here now for about 5 minutes. Let's start to give the people some value for their time of listening to us. And as Lee said, we're going to talk about calibers. And when you talk about calibers, you also have to remember, and that because that's for handguns and rifles, another thing called gauge. Gauge.
Yes.
That's for shotguns.
Yeah, and also, but what is your use for it? Are you just practicing? You out plinking, using it for self-defense, competition? When you choose your calibers.
Yeah, that's where, it's really critical when you look at what you're going to buy as a firearm is that caliber and the purpose that I'm going to use the firearm for. Is it going to be multi-purpose? I want to use it for, practice shooting, plinking, and I want to use it for hunting. Do I want to use it for, my personal defense, home defense, and going out to enjoyably shoot? There's a whole lot of decisions to be made in that space, and that's kind of what we want to, discuss and get into today. It's about making those choices. And when it comes to calibers, you need to understand that calibers are measured in two kinds of measurements. One is what's called SAE, the American standards. The other is in metric. Everybody knows 9 millimeter and this, that, 7 millimeter, 8 millimeter. But, when you hear somebody say 45, that means 0.45 of an inch because that's the SAE standard measurement. Or you'll hear them say 40 Smith & Wesson, that's 0.40 of an inch. Or 357.357, 22.22 of an inch, 223.223, which is also equal to 556 millimeter. So, there's a correlation. But gauge is the one that will confuse the living daylights out of you. Because gauge, we have 10, we have 8, we've got 10, we've got 12, we've got 16, we have 20. Gauge, the bigger the number, the smaller it is. But
that's where a lot of people get messed up.
Oh yeah, it's like wire. With wire, the bigger the number, the bigger it is. But with firearms, the bigger the number, the smaller it is. Go figure that one out. But and then they really go out of their way to confuse us with this thing called a 410. No, that's not 410 gauge. That's 0.410 of an inch to really confuse us. Now, based on that confusing statement, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back from our break.
And one thing we're going to talk about with the ammunition, me, I like to simplify. I don't like to have every type of round that's out there. I found the rounds that I'm comfortable shooting, that I enjoy shooting. And those are the ones I try to base my firearms around. If you buy the 5.7, the 45, 10 mil, 9 mil, then you go out and pick you up a 357 or a 357 SIG. Now you got to go out and find all this ammunition.
Now wait a minute. He said a term there, 357 SIG. Don't confuse that with the 357 Magnum.
That's why I threw it out there.
Yeah, the 357 SIG is a smaller round that's for a semi-automatic pistol. It was gained prevalence in Europe, especially with the West German police. They wanted something that was a little quicker but a little smaller, and they necked down a 9mm cartridge to get there. So that's what he's talking about. Not to be confused with the 357 Magnum from Magnum Force, that Dirty Harry's competitors carried.
And the 357 SIG will not fit into the 357 back.
No, don't let some clerk sell you going, that's 357, ma'am. Here you go. Yeah. And to that point, it's just like, a shotgun. If all you're going to do is take it out and occasionally go skeet shooting or trap shooting, hell, get a 20 gauge, to shoot with, whether, because, a number 7 birdshot or a skeet shot range. You don't have to go with the 12 gauge. If you want to go with the 12 gauge, you can get a term I'll use, throttle down. They're designed for target and skeet shooting. You don't need something that can reach way out there to hit, a duck at a high altitude. But now we're going to really confuse you. if you want to use it for home defense, I still recommend number 9 birdshot. Here, where the number gets bigger, it does get smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go, confusing you again. And with a 10 gauge or an 8 gauge, I mean, those things are huge. They're big. They're really big to shoot through, but you don't need that big. And we talk about these things like double-aught buckshot or BB shot. Well, BB shot, just like it sounds, it's the size of BBs in a shotgun shell. Double-aught, it's a little bigger. But, if you're going to use double-aught, yeah, that's what you might use for, close-in hunting with some type of animal. Sometimes in, military and law enforcement will use it. For home defense, too big of a chance of stuff going through walls. Just
exactly
number 7. But if you're going to go out and practice and you're just going to go, out to shoot trap, shoot skeet, these are the little clay things that fly through the air. Just, get a 20 gauge or get a 10, 12 gauge that's chambered in, something that's, more, designed for shooting that type of stuff.
And we know when you go out shopping, it can be awful confusing because you see all the different names from Winchester, Federal, Hornady, Nosler, who's the best? Well, that opinion is going to vary to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now I'm going to talk as a gunsmith and as a competitive shooter. There is a difference. If you buy, Joe Blow's ammo from the Joe Blow, loading company, good chances it might blow up and, in your hand because it's poorly made. You buy some of that in some of the crap from those Russian animals, Tula, Wolf, Herders. Yeah, that stuff is cheaper with that steel-cased ammunition, but the powder formulation is so crappy that it fills out your gun. So, I mean, even to that end, and there are, when it comes to bullets, now this is the only time you start getting really involved with your bullets and your calibers is when you start to look at competitive shooting and the things you're doing, boat tails, straight tails, this tail, that tail. That'll have an impact, but just for the normal everyday, it's not going to make a lot of difference. If you're going to get hunting ammunition, you're going to want to go study stuff about the different calipers that are appropriate for the animals you're hunting. It's like you would not want to go out and go hunting for let's say a coyote with a 300 Win Mag or a prairie dog with a 300 Win Mag. There's so much power there. It's going to create just a mist, you in the distance. You might use that 300 Win Mag for an elk, for a moose, something of that size. And, you go with a 270 or a 243 Winchester style rifle, a 30-30 to hunt deer, and you could also use it to hunt antelope if you wanted to. I mean, see, you don't buy this giant thing and say, yeah, this gun's got, this and that, and it's got a shot big around as my thumb, and I can go hunt anything. No, because it wouldn't be appropriate. It would be just like with the shotgun. Yep, I'm going to go out and hunt dove with with a 10 gauge. Actually, what you'll be hunting is picking up feathers.
Yep.
It'll be gone. That's why you think about if you're going to do stuff like that. Upland bird guns, 20 gauge, 16 gauge, whatever it may be. I've got 20 gauges for upland bird. I've got 12 gauges for, competitive shooting with skeet, trap, single action shooting. It depends. It just depends.
Yeah, and it depends on what you want to do with it. Well, I'll just throw Blazer out there. Blazer is nothing I would shoot in a competition with, but it's something I will go out and train with. Knowing that, the further I go back, probably not going to be as accurate as if I would be shooting Hornadays. But now you're talking a price tag.
Yeah, you don't need that. That's the point, Lee. You're right. You're spot on. It's about frugality of use.
Yeah, I mean,
don't
you can
spend
pick up
$20 when you can spend $7 or $8 or $10.
That's right. I was at a meeting last night with some of the team, and the guy's like, "Well, I can get these new 45 HCPs." I said, "Well, how much are they?" And he said they're $39 a box. I said, "We got to shoot 60 rounds." Yeah, I said, "Now times that." They're $39 for a box of 20.
You tell that man to call me. I've got MagTech 45 ACP in here. I will sell him 50 rounds for $29.
That will work just as well.
Yeah.
Holy it's
smoke.
You don't have to spend that kind of money. There is, most people knew that, I'm a Hornady fan when it comes for my self-defense, when it comes for competitions, but just for my plinking, I'm a Blazer fan. $19.95 for a box of 50, it's going down my 9mm. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be plinking.
And when when I'm plinking or training, I'll tell you what. There's about 4 I use. It'll either be Fiocchi's Training Dynamics, Seller and Beloit. They're really, it's an imported round, but they're high quality. The other are the Winchester Target range. Don't get just that crap white box. You're gonna have stovepipes and everything else. And then Remington rounds. And again, that even alternates by caliber. 22s, hey, I'm a Remington Gold Bullet CCI Mini Mag guy. Because I'll tell you what, all that other stuff, it fails. Unless I'm shooting revolvers. If I'm shooting revolvers, I won't spend the money. I'll use that Wildcat or the Thunderbolts. But, just understand you're going to get a few, sometimes the occasional, misfire.
And the one I'm not a fan of is that Armscore, especially in the 22.
Now hold that thought for a minute. We're going to go off to a break and be right back. All right, why don't you continuing disparaging Armscore so we can get into a liability or into a civil dispute? But go ahead.
I was back in your play with the Remington. I would go, if I have to choose between the two, I'm going to go with the Remington.
Yeah, well, Armscore 22 isn't the greatest, but I'll tell you what, if you were to get Armscore 22 TCM, that is a fantastic ammunition, but it works in a very specific gun. And let me tell you how that works. The Armscore, who is also known as Rock Island Armory and some other firms, that 22 TCM, it's pricing, it's hard to find, but it was designed to work in a 1911 that they built that would shoot 9mm or 22 TCM for competition purposes. Because when it came to competition, a lot of the competitors, you're shooting 38 Super, you're shooting 45 ACP, you'll shoot 357 SIG, they're shooting 9mm. Well, the 22 TCM in the competitive rules, it states the casing must measure this amount minimum. Oh, okay. Well, what they did with the 22 TCM is they took a 9mm cartridge, necked it down to a 22, not like a 22 you see in a 22, but a 22 style bullet. And it's easier to shoot, more accurate, and the competitors went with it. See, this again talks about caliber and how you're going to use it based upon the gun.
Exactly.
That's the key. That's the key, And the other thing I would tell you, folks, don't chase the latest, greatest caliber that's talked about in a magazine. You mean? Yeah, you need it.
Like the 5.7?
Yeah, 5.7 by 28mm. Yeah, that has no purpose except for defensive and military because it defeats body armor. It was designed by FN for their PS90 and for their handgun. That's the only purpose for it. It's just like the PS90 is not a handgun. It's a special designed battle rifle.
It's a neat looking round. It really is for a handgun. It's a neat looking round, but look at can you get your hands on it? How much does it cost?
Yeah, get a 17, HMR. Can accomplish the same task, and it's more readily available. It looks
exactly.
It's all about looks. It's like, wow, that looks just like that. Yeah, no kidding, it looks just like that. But it's based upon how you're going to use it, what you're going to do. Don't chase the latest, greatest. It's like when the 450 SOCOM came out. That's a special, operations command round. And everybody thought, oh, I want to shoot what those, the SEALs are shooting and everybody else. It's highly pricey, and it has a specific purpose. It's just like if you wanted to use it to hunt boar, don't use a 450 SOCOM, go with a 450 Beowulf. Hey, it's a whole different round, works better. But it's still a .45, and it's used on AR platforms. It's used in rifles. Don't chase the latest and greatest. It's like right now, the 350
Mm-hmm.
Legend. I mean, that's a very nice round, but unless you're going to reload it, you're not going to find a lot of it out there. I mean, whereas the other calibers, tried and true, 30-30, 30-06, 308, 10, 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 9 millimeter, 38 special, 45 ACP, is readily around. It's just like right now, everybody wants 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter. You know why the manufacturer building 10 millimeter guns? It's because it's the only ammunition that was available during the pandemic, because nobody
Yeah.
had 10 millimeter. They weren't out there buying unless you had one already. So now the manufacturer said, let's retool, build 10 millimeters. So they built 10
Yeah.
millimeters, flooded the market with them. Guess what? You can't find now 10 millimeter ammunition.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But
One of the biggest questions I get asked, because a lot of people, they can tell the big name brands versus the low grade names, but that one that's in the middle, Federal. A lot of people ask me about Federal. Now, when it comes down to Federal, now this is going to say on the box, Federal ammunition. Then there's a Federal premium. Again, what am I going to do with it? Just for plinking? I'm going to pick me up a box of Federal ammunition. It's going to be a lot cheaper. But if I am going to go hunting, target, competition shooting, then I'm going to look at the Federal premium.
Yeah, or I'm going to reload my own to get the right balance of the bullet and the powder.
Exactly. Which I do, but
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing you do with a rifle. You dial it in for your rifle if you're going to shoot a lot. But if you're not, if you're only going to be that seasonal hunter, go buy the ammunition, buy a box at the start of the season, 20 rounds, is the way they sell them. And you get something like Hornaday's, Evolution, which is a good, clean round for shooting. It's got a special tip in it so that you can, do that, one shot, one kill kind of approach with the animal. People go crazy when you say humanely hunting, but it's all about, wildlife management things. But that's a different topic for a different day. But, you get something like that. You take 4 of those rounds or 5 of them and you dial your gun in. Because you're only going to need one, and your tag is only for one animal, unless you're going to pull multiple tags, a cow tag, a buck tag, this tag or that tag, and then what you have left at the end of the season, you unload the gun, put it back in the box, put it in a cool, dry place, and then next year, when it goes time to shoot, if you need to dial your gun in, because you've changed the scope or something like that. And that's the only time you need to dial back in again. Gun should be the same as it was, unless you banged it around and been foolish with it in the gun safe, the gun cabinet, is you go and you take that ammunition that's left out, and that's what you dial the gun with. And now you get, the other 20 that you buy, if you need to even buy any. Because you might shoot that one and it's right on target, say, hey, we're good to go, and I'll just use the 5, 6 that are left in the box.
Exactly.
Because people ask me, well, how long will ammunition last? Well, that's a dependent question about what are your storage methodologies?
Mm-hmm.
It can last a very, very long time. I mean, you see ammunition made from the 1950s that looks just as good as stuff today because it's been sealed in containers and it's been stored in a cool, dry place.
That's right. Now, like where Buddy would store his at, where they do have that cool, dry place. Now, down here where I live at, humidity runs rampant.
Don't buy a lot.
Now, I do have I know, I'll pull that stuff out. It'd be green all over. But I have an ammunition locker. And it's easy. You go to Dollar Tree. They have them little humidity cups.
Dollar Tree, if you'd like to send us a check, I'll give you the address after the show.
I think they're $1.25 tree now, but
yeah, that's the price of fuel.
Yeah, but you can get them and keep them.
Yep.
Them little silicone packs. I have them spread throughout my ammunition cabinet. But again, I take a couple of those, just watch it when it fills up. I just throw it away. I don't dump out the water. For $1.25, I'll go buy 2 more, stick them in there. So that way you can monitor how much humidity is getting inside your ammunition cabinet, and you can easily throw them away. And for $2.50, go buy you a couple more. It depends on the size of your ammunition cabinet.
Yeah, which is a good, Lee brings it up. This is a good thing to remember. Even in my climate out here in Colorado, we have things like groundwater, condensation, leaches up through the ground. Always make sure your ammunition cabinet, same as your firearms cabinet, is at least 3 inches off the floor or 2 inches. Mm-hmm. All my stuff's all on casters big heavy-duty caster so I can move it around so I can, clean, vacuum, but also just keep that condensation that comes through the ground out of it.
Yep. So that's just a method of storage, which depends on where you live at. You want to take care of that ammunition because, like Buddy said, it can sit there for 20, 30 years. So, like I'm a fan of the Hornady Blacks, especially for if I was hunting or shooting competition. And so, like Buddy said, I can take it out for hunting. Well, my rifle's on. I'm good to go. I use one round of it. I still got 19 more out of that box of 308s I just took my big whitetail with. So they can sit there and last for a while, as long as you take measures to take care of it.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great place to end up with, folks. We've been talking for 20, almost 26 minutes today. We try to keep us down to 24 minutes, but I'm going to have Lee go ahead and take us into the closing, and we're going to close out the show.
Well, let's keep Ukraine in our prayers, people, because this shows why it's so important to have our Second Amendment. And as always, watch your six, watch your family six, and your friends is six. And as long as you have our Lord and Savior in your life, 6 feet ain't so far down.
And I say, at the close of the show, freedom is not won on the battlefield, but in the home and in the school. Know what your children are taught. Know what teach them about freedom. And the Ukrainian people, there's a great example. They're not winning their freedom on the battlefield. They're trying to preserve it because they've been taught about freedom. They've learned about freedom, about that First Amendment, and being able to live their lives the way they want to. And we have a madman who wants to take that from them. Do keep them in your prayers. If you want to donate, find a charity where the money's going to them. And, write your politicians. We need to punish the Russians. Turn on the gas lines. Start pumping oil. Stop buying from them. Stop buying from their cronies. And, we don't have to go to war with them. We don't want to go to war with them. There's, between our two countries, we've got enough stuff to vaporize this earth, and we don't want to do that. But we can sure as heck punish them financially to where maybe the Russian people make their own decisions about who should be in command. Now, I've carried on more than I normally do, so we'll let you go, folks, and you all have a wonderful day. And don't forget tonight, big show on. Let's Go Biden's going to tell us how great everything is. So let's, I'll talk to you all next week. Lee, thank you so much, and we'll be chatting soon. Have a great one.